Business in the City, the podcast of entrepreneurs without borders. Hi, Arnav. So we're very happy to have you with us today. Could you please tell us a little bit more about your story?
Hi, Millie. I have a very interesting story which goes back all the way almost 20 years or 30 years. And I grew up in India, and although I come from a reasonable, comfortable background, I spent a lot of time in rural India. And I think throughout my childhood, I saw a distinctive difference between urban and natural spaces. So, I've lived in a city, and I've lived in the middle of a forest, and I think that difference is what really made me who I am today. I believe in that nature and human beings need not necessarily live differently. Cities and forests can actually just be one thing, and that's the idea that I sort of grew up in because I looked at these different environments around me. I now live in London, which is a very, very urban area. And I often think about why are we not integrated with nature? So the question that I often come to is, why is architecture only for human beings and why not for nature as well? Why are humans and other non-human species, why is there no coexistence between the two? And with that idea in mind, I've always tried to sort of push my agenda of sustainability in whichever field or form that I've been. So I did my bachelor's in architecture and I completed my master's in architecture as well. I graduated from UCL and I did this course called Biointegrated Design, which is essentially the integration of biology and architecture. And it's a very unique course which brings a lot of, it raises a lot of questions and also helps the students answer these questions. It's a fantastic course, which it's a fantastic course by the Bartlett School of Architecture, and it's headed by Marcus Cruz and Brenda Parker. Do check out more about it because the more you learn about it, the more it's fascinating. That is where I was introduced to the idea of biodesign, which is essentially again bio and design, as it is obvious. And a lot of different institutes around the world are now adopting these practices because we build the entire world using concrete, which has a very high carbon footprint. And the question that we now have is we are trying to sort of go back to what it was previously. We had roughly 3 or 4 industrial revolutions, and now we realize that maybe those 4 weren't the exact revolutions that we wanted. We had a boom of fossil fuel, we had this revolution of plastic, and it's only now that we realize that it was probably a mistake, and we are trying to sort of undo what has happened. And I feel like we are now in the middle of like the 5th revolution where the climate change revolution, where everybody's sort of turning towards how can we fix things and go back to being more sustainable. And that is, as an architect, that is where I sort of come in because my family has been in the construction business for many generations, and I've always wondered how can we make the idea of construction more sustainable. And with that idea of having a construction background and a passion towards nature, I sort of brought it together when I came to BioID. After my master's, I had an opportunity to start my own startup along with my co-founder, and UCL has played a very important role in that as well.
Can you tell us more about how you used to live? Because you said you lived in the middle of a forest in a way, and you said your family is also from a real estate background, so or construction background. Could you please tell us more about it?
Sure. So I grew up in Mumbai and Pune, which are mega cities in India, very busy, very populated, very urban, and very less green spaces. But
Exactly.
at the age of 10, I went to a school called Sayadri School. It's basically in the middle of a forest. There's a village nearby. There's a lot of greenery around it, and it was a very interesting school where we learned more about how can we just live. I think it focused on living and happiness and philosophy rather than trying to get your marks and grades for a certain examination. It was a very non-competitive environment, and it really helped children just grow in whatever fashion they want to. I think that is where my sense of creativity sort of stems from, because it really gave me a lot of opportunities and it exposed me to a lot of ideas. We did a lot of farming, cooking, just lived amongst nature. It was very interesting to come across snakes and frogs, and a lot of greenery. And I think that is a certain lifestyle. Because I grew up in this lifestyle for around 5 years, it really had an impact on me. When I went back to the city, I could feel this distinctive difference. I felt like there is nature, which is one side of the world, and then there is cities, which is another side of world, and they are two different worlds. And why are they two different worlds was a question I kept asking myself. Why can we not just be free? The soil and the rain are actually incredible things, and the nature has its own sense of smell, a sense of touch, and we sort of miss that in an urban environment. And I think ever since I came back into the cities, and I've sort of spent another 10 years of my life now in the city, I've always tried to find a way back of going to nature. It's always like an escape for me that I'm looking for. But with that escape also raises the question of why can't we just bring nature back into the cities? And that is what sort of led me to what I'm doing today.
So why did you go to London, by the way? I mean, UK. What made you go there?
Um, when I was in my final years of my bachelor, I did my bachelor's in India. So during my final years, I came across Marcus Cruz and his work. I came across this article called Neoplasmatic Design, which was some work done by Marcus Cruz, and he has raised a few very interesting theories and questions in it. As I studied more about Marcus, I came across UCL. And for me, the idea was pretty much clear. Like, either I do biointegrated design, which is the course at UCL, or I was not even planning to do masters at all. It is the idea of integrating biology and architecture is what really piqued my interest, because it sort of felt like the place where I come from and my childhood. I felt like it came together in my education. And with that in mind, I came to UCL. So more than London, I think I came to UCL, and that is what really brought me here. There aren't many courses around the world which had this course, at least back then. It's only now that it's sort of picking up. But because that was the major option that I had back then, it's why I came to London.
That's great. So, can you now tell us about your project? What's its name? How you came up with it? And yeah, tell us what it is about and what you want to revolutionize.
Right. So during my course at the Bartlett in BioID, I felt like there was a lot of research which was going on, which was unable to come into practice for whatever reasons. And we strongly felt like, because I come from a construction background, I've always been in a business background, I understand real estate. I've always asked myself, how can we take this research which is happening in the academic world, and how can we bring it into the real world, the applications of this research. And with that as the foundation of the idea, I started this firm called Phyta Biodesign, which is it's a platform to bring this research into practice. We started off with something very simple, architectural installations using biomaterials. We try to use a lot of materials which are sustainable, it's natural, they have a lower carbon footprint, materials like mycelium or algae. And the idea is to use this material as much as possible and bring them into the construction environment so that we can reduce the carbon footprint. The construction sector at the moment is one of the most damaging sectors on the planet. It's over 40% of carbon emissions, a lot of pollution, a lot of waste which is generated, and it's high time we understand that the infrastructure that we are building uh, is not really healthy for the planet, and that's the idea that we are sort of trying to bring in. We are designing products using biomaterials, which are designed using data-driven design, um, and we are fabricating it using the latest fabrication technologies available. These products, we try to make these products as affordable as possible, try to optimize the performance, and we build it in a way so that it's not just for humans but also for other species. Um, a couple of products to name is Apia, which is a habitat for bees, Fauna, which is a habitat for birds. We are looking at other air purification, water purification systems, which we are trying to work on. The idea of bringing microorganisms into natural spaces and trying to understand them better in domestic spaces. Uh, these are the ideas that we have in mind. We are heavy on R&D, and we are currently at a stage where we are trying to put out our products and test them in real-time environments.
What do you build the most within this project?
So currently we have designed Apia, which is mycelium panels, uh, which creates a habitat for bees. And the idea is that we create these installations and place them around different parts of London to understand how solitary bees are affecting and responding to these installations. Uh, to give you more insight about solitary bees, they are not like honeybees, they are not bumblebees. They are endangered. There are over 270 species of solitary bees around London, and they are in desperate need of help and habitat. So we are trying to create London a space which is not just habitable for humans but also for solitary bees. And with all the ecologists and researchers that we are trying to work on, we have a working prototype of this product, which we are now trying to place in a real-time environment to test its performance.
So you are still in this pre-launch mode, or are you like still studying the market, the needs? What's the stage you're in exactly?
I think yes, we are at a pre-revenue stage. We are testing out our products to optimize their performance. We have generated some revenue, although very less. Uh, we have generated some revenue by working with national parks, royal parks, museums around London. And the idea is to understand this product, understand its effects on solitary bees, gather enough data so that we can launch it at a more larger scale. Because this is an R&D project, we don't expect it to be launched right away. The idea is that you develop this product over a few years before you actually scale up to a required.
Okay. What gave you the confidence to go out there and do your business? Because you could go to a job, but you decided to be an entrepreneur right after your studies. That's quite unusual.
Yes, it is. It is quite unusual, as a lot of people tell me. Um, but again, I think uh, I come from a construction background, and I come from real estate. I've seen my family do business for years. I think doing some sort of a business has always been my agenda. I never plan on doing jobs in the first place. I did a job once for 5 months, and I think that was the point I knew that this is not for me. I've always liked to build things, especially physical products, and that's what really pushed me. Um, I think UCL really helped me give me a foundation where they not just gave me education but also a platform to start this business and entrepreneurship. It's called UCL Innovation and Enterprise. and they have a fantastic setup where where startups can thrive.
That's great. We really need to pay tribute to UCL, by the way. I also think that it's probably a European thing to say it's unusual to start as an entrepreneur because having lived in Asia, it's actually, I would say it's the opposite even because Asian people start businesses so early in life. It's more common. It's probably the land of entrepreneurs. I don't know how you feel about that, but having lived in Burma, China, Hong Kong, Thailand, Vietnam, everybody's an entrepreneur over there. I mean, even when you have a job, you have a business on the side. How do you feel about entrepreneurship on the two sides of the world? Coming from
Wow,
Asia,
that's a
now living in London.
yes. Very interesting question. Well, first of all, I think entrepreneurship at its foundation level is the same wherever you go. I think it's the idea of building something for the people around you. It's the idea of there has to be a social impact. It can be profit driven depending on what you're trying to do, but the fundamental idea of entrepreneurship is the same. What changes is the audience that you're trying to cater to. The audience in take India, for example, is going to be very different from the London market. And I think understanding the audience changes a lot of things, whether it's your business plan, your finances, or even your product. Um, but if you understand the fundamentals of business, I don't think there's much of a difference. I don't see there's much of a difference. And yeah.
Yes, probably. Throughout this project, what's your deep mission as a person or as an entrepreneur? If you had a magic wand, what could you change? What's this true mission you have?
Can you ask the question again?
Sure. Um, Apart from that, what's your mission? Do you have like this will to change? I'm sorry, repeat. Um, so, do you have a mission? Do you have something you'd like to change deeply? What are you doing that for? You know, this really important thing you'd like to say to the world. You know, this true mission within you. What would it be?
As I mentioned, I think growing up in natural spaces and urban spaces has and that distinction, I think bringing that together has always been my main focus. Creating a coexistence and creating a sustainable space for humans and the planet alike. That I think is my fundamental goal, regardless of whether I'm in London or India or any other part of the planet. I think we as people need to be closer to nature, not just physically but also emotionally. And I think this is what the primary driving factor is. If you look at it from because I am an architect and I come from the construction background, I'm trying to do this through real estate and making real estate a lot more sustainable, making construction a lot more sustainable. Has been my driving factor. Um and I do see a vision. I do have. I hope that this world will be a lot more eco-conscious as compared to right now. Whether it's from a manufacturing setup or the construction is probably the biggest scale. It's easier to design a product. It's easy to design a furniture item, but designing an entire building and making it sustainable is probably one of the most difficult things because of the scale and the money that goes into it. And I think that I see that as a challenge, but at the same time, I see that as something which is very likely to happen in the future, something which really will bring me a lot of satisfaction and happiness, considering how I spent my childhood.
And as regard with this sustainable approach and the way you're building things, and you're very aware of many data that we are not, because we are not working in this field. So is there something you'd like us to be aware of? Any data, anything that is happening and you'd like to share with us? Because we're not like you in this field like every day. And if you'd like to share something so we're more aware of, what's happening within this field, just let us know. It could be very interesting. Or maybe there's
Yes.
none and it's okay.
Um, yeah, I think we can just skip this question because there's a lot of factual data, and I
Okay.
don't want to give out wrong
No,
data
sometimes
without
because
making sure.
sometimes entrepreneurs have something important to say, as regard with their work, their data, everything. So sometimes they say, "Yeah, I really want to say that three-quarter of the population is starving or whatever." So if it's not the case, no problem. Um, about the business, let's talk marketing channels. Let's talk how you organize your business in order to grow, because that's the end goal, right? Um, what are some unexpected marketing channels that help you get results, or something you'd like to tell us about how you're growing, basically?
Yes, I think because we are not just a profit-driven enterprise. We are a very socio impact enterprise, and the idea, one of the biggest things that we have is to raise awareness of what we are doing. Often, people don't understand the significance and the importance of building a sustainable business. Um, so some of the unexpected marketing channels that we have had is that in the process of raising awareness, we ended up creating a lot of buzz around what we are doing. Um, we recently, last year, we applied for the Mayor's Entrepreneur Competition, and it was a massive success in terms of marketing because it really showed us how interesting our product is and how people are sort of responding to it. It really gave us a lot of. I'm sorry, I'm stumbling a lot. I'm just gonna drink
Yes,
some
how
water.
again.
I think one of the major things that we have been trying to do is raise awareness because we are not just a profit-driven enterprise, but also a social impact-driven enterprise, and we are trying to raise this awareness to just bring to people's attentions why we are doing what we are doing and the significance behind sustainability. In our process over the last 2 years, we have won a couple of competitions, especially the London Mayor's competition, which happens annually. And I would say it was one of our biggest achievements. We may not have won the competition entirely all the way, but we did get to the final round, and that gave us a lot of moral boost. I think that was one of the pivotal points when we realized that this is not just a product, but it's more than that. And that is when we realized the scale of its impact when we got the response from the people. That ended up becoming one of the biggest marketing tools for us. Very unexpected. We were not going for marketing, we were going for something entirely different, but we did get a very positive response from the people around us. And I would say that has been one of the biggest milestones.
That's great. And what's your ideal goal if you can do exactly what you aim at? And what would be the big final goal for you ideally?
I would love to see one plot of land which is 100% sustainable. And I'm going to take a moment over here to just question the word sustainable. I think the word sustainable has been misused a lot of times. Uh, this word like eco and bio, green, sustainability are words which are thrown around very often. And it's usually thrown around very often because of companies trying to market their product. You may call yourself sustainable, but are you really sustainable? Is the question that comes up. And I believe, in my personal opinion, the definition of sustainability can be different for different people. But for me, it's you have to sustain, right? If it's whether it's a company or a plot of land or anything, it has to sustain 100%. So imagine you're living in a building, and if the building can survive a zombie apocalypse, If there's no food, if there's no water, if there's no external influence of any kind, if you can survive, if this building can survive an apocalypse, then I would say it is sustainable, because it's able to grow its own food, it's able to grow its own water, it's able to generate its own electricity. That would be the point, that it's sustainable. Is that I would say is my definition of sustainability.
Interesting. So Arnav, tell us, how long are you going to stay in the UK? Is it forever, or will you return to Asia one day?
I think I will return to Asia one day for sure. Not just that, I am actively looking for other places to sort of take my work to. So I go wherever my work takes me, and I do see myself going back to India at some point.
I think India needs you.
Yes.
Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you so much.
Business in the City, the podcast of entrepreneurs without borders.